Okay, Rabbi Isai, thank you for those who are listening and those who are on live. We spent probably the good part of 5 months over the end of last summer's man into the winter's man on Bilvavi, Mishkan, Evneh, chapter 4. And we worked through much of the chapter in the English, really focusing on the bitachon elements that Bilvavi talks about as it relates to creating a world within ourselves that is not only obviously a sanctuary in the heart, but a sanctuary that we can actually live in within the heart, and to be able to find opportunities in our regular, mundane, day-to-day lives to connect in a deeper way and to be okay. And it was actually Yuri, who's on this call, one of the things that he had said when we were together for Pesach was just want to be okay, and it's just so true, for so many of us in the world of balabatim, in the working world, in the tuition world, in the marriage world, in the raising children world, in a world that seems more and more confusing. There's only one thing that kind of keeps us non-confused, which is obviously Torah, mitzvahs, and dveikus, and being able to get back to age-old remedies, to what we would consider New Age problems, but are really reincarnations of the same problems, but just look and feel and sound differently. Doesn't make it easier for us to be able to find a way to ground ourselves. I don't look at anything personally as one way. I think technology has its tremendous milas, and we've talked a lot about the disconnection of technology in the Chabura before, and the milas of disconnecting and the balance and the ability to find balance. And I think for me personally, it's the inability to find balance in a lot of things, and some of that struggle that exists within myself to be able to balance going out into the working world, going into the base medrash world, going into relationships with friends, showing up for my wife, showing up for my children, showing up for myself, believing in myself, having that sense of confidence in myself when things are not going right, and ultimately being able to find a way to deeply connect with. Welcome, Shalom. Find a way to be able to deeply connect with. Sit here so they can see you. Okay. Shalom, Yuri, Ellie. Okay. To be able to find a way to deeply connect with ourselves throughout any given day. And what Bilvavi has done for me as a subset of Torah, it was the first sefer I was introduced to when I entered sobriety 7 years ago. Really not, actually. The first book I was given was by Menachem Prusnansky. And I'm forgetting the name of the book, but he had written a book about consciousness and higher consciousness. First time I ever understood what it meant living by higher consciousness, what it meant to live l'mala min hateva, from what seems to be everyone in Teva, and some of the things that he had talked about in that book of we're kind of living in one big unconscious world, that the turn is happening in many ways where the world is becoming more conscious, but it's at no blame to no one. Our parents were raised by very good people, but probably unconscious, and their parents probably unconscious to some degree, and you've got this new world of needed consciousness that is coming to the surface that can't be ignored. And in his book, he had talked about Bilvavi, Mishkan, Evneh. And in Bilvavi, Mishkan, Evneh, the author, Ravi Tamar Shlita, he has two paths. He has the path of Bilvavi and all the chapters and teachings within that. And then he's got the Da'as path. Know yourself, Da'as Beisecha, Da'as Nafshecha, Da'as Ishtecha, I think. He's got all these different things about how to get to know yourself. And there are two different avodas. One is kind of building from within, and one is some of the other elements of creating structure. And so the sefer I picked, which can be ordered on any of your local booksellers, but Getting to Know Your Home, there's a million places that sell this, and there's 15 or 20 different getting to know blank all different colors. This one is the orange one. And I hit on this one. Originally, I was going to find a different sefer, full transparency. I can't find it in anything that's around right now. Everything is still in boxes. And so I just pivoted to this one that I found. And I know that we wanted to get started and I didn't want to delay. But the whole idea of the title of the book is The Gateway to Understanding Your Family. And I know for Ellie and I, and for Shalom, we all come from unique backgrounds of familial tension. You know, in business, my boss used to call it organizational tension when the passive aggressiveness was reaching an all-time high in meetings. So I think that passive aggressiveness that can occur after what seemed to be a 37-day Yom Tif, it was a good idea to maybe pivot into something that we talk about. But Lamaisa, you know, when I speak to the guys in general, or I'm listening, you know, I think a lot of what it is with Bilvavi also is just really learning how to listen. And just a lot of home stuff, whether it's from days gone by of parental stuff, or it's marriage stuff of just this kind of missing each other, or this. And it's definitely the child rearing stuff. Tammy and I have pretty much gotten to the place where we've admitted that we have no idea how to do what we're supposed to do for each of our individual teenagers. We've got one who is, you know, wants to be perfect and gets great grades. We've got one that's obsessed with basketball, but apparently doesn't hate to drink. So I wonder where he got that from. Ellie, probably. You know, and then I've got my younger ones, but, you know, it seemed pretty good, and it still is, Baruch Hashem, but there's really no guide onto how to do this thing. And so I figured that if there was a sefer based on the selfish group of friends that I have as it relates to my immediate network, not really thinking outside the box beyond that, we're all starting to get to that anxious place of like, what are we going to do when mass chaos breaks out in Lincolnwood because we can't find our children anywhere where they're supposed to be? And so ultimately, I'm hoping that this book, this sefer that we learn in English, will be able to take us there. Shalom, just to introduce you to Yudi. Yudi and I got this. We knew each other before, but we got to spend a ton of time together. He should really be giving this. He's a massive Talmid Chacham and an unbelievable guy, and hopefully you guys will have what to do. I'm going to invite him at some point. We're meeting Thursday, Yodi, and you're on the list about the Bilvavi shiurim that we have going. But I mamish got hours with him over Yantif, and it was made my Yantif. So Baruch Hashem.
Who's here?
He lives in Boca Raton.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and read because I don't think anyone has the book yet. Part 1, Chapter 1, The Void. 2 reasons for doing Averis. So he must have wrote this during Elzman. These are the days of Rachamim and Slichos, of being able to rectify Averis that have been done b'nezid and b'shogeg. What brings a person to sin? In general, there are 2 roots of chait. The first source is desire. A person will try to fulfill his desire because they are constantly burning inside of him. No matter where he finds himself, he'll still be driven to do this. Sorry. The second source of sin is completely different. Chazal say doing nothing brings boredom, which turns into madness, and madness brings you to sin. The second root of sin stems from the void of the nefesh and the soul of the person, and not as a response to desire. Interesting. Every person has a left and a right void in his heart. Chazal explain that the right void is the place of the Yetzer Tov, and the left void is the heart that contains the Yetzer Hara. When the good inclination is active, the void is full. But if, God forbid, the good inclination disappears, it becomes deeply embedded in the inner recess of the heart and forms a void. This is the new source of chait. Obviously, everyone just jump in with any thoughts or questions. I'll pause in a minute, but it is not the force of the Yetzer Hara that attracts a person in the form of desire to sin. It is not the force. When a person has nothing to do, he becomes susceptible to the void. He is like an empty pit that has no water, but it has snakes and scorpions. When he is empty, it causes snakes and scorpions to inhabit his pit. Chazal rhetorically asked the snake, what pleasure do you get from speaking Lashon Hara or for biting a person? Does the snake bite you because he wants to? No. So why does he do so? There is no water in the pit, but it has snakes and scorpions in it. He bites you because of the emptiness. The empty pit implies that he has avoided himself, which is a reason that he bites. So forget taking a hard right all the way to sin. But I think we can all acknowledge in the day-to-day world that when boredom sets in, mass scrolling can take place, binge watching, distraction of nothingness. Tzvi Reifer was with me over Yantif, and I had told him about Yodi's father and the number of times he had finished Shas. And Tzvi just looked at me and he's like, we are just complete wastes of space. And we just have. There's been so much time wasted. And of course, for many of us, there were tekufas, maybe all of us, where that boredom instantly led to Averos. I think for some, there's growth, Baruch Hashem. So it's not like we're all turning to Averos like we once did, but we're turning to other kosher distractions that are allowing us to disappear into this world of emptiness. And then we go and try to chase the next dopamine kick, because that's all it is. We're all addicted to the dopamine. And then very quickly, we enter a place of nachavoid, and nachavoid, and nachavoid, and it just repeats itself. Chazal say that the Bnei Yisrael only allowed themselves to sin with the ha'egal hazahav because they wanted to act promiscuously. The underlying reason for committing this particular aver was because they were overcome by desire, and they thought this would be a way to fulfill that desire. Why did Adam Arishan eat the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge? It was good for the eyes and it had the appearance of knowledge. This is the sin of desire. But who caused the sin? Adam Arishan? No, the snake. What pleasure does a person have from speaking Lashon Hara? He does not speak Lashon Hara because of desire. The source of the sin of Lashon Hara comes from the void in the right side of the heart. When a person has an empty space inside of him, it creates a new reason for sin. Within the vacuum of the empty space, desire takes over, and he sins as a result. But desire is not the cause of the sin. At the root of it, it's empty void. There's no water in the pit. It has snakes and scorpions. That is the root of sin. Asking Hashem for forgiveness, salach lanu, machalanu, kaper lanu, can be compared to cleaning a dirty house, except there's no point in cleaning a house if the source of the mess hasn't been dealt with. For example, which again is my favorite element of Bilvavi, is, and it's one of the harder things in business, when I'm trying to convince a colleague of the way I want to do something, and I'm not this authoritative guy really, but like when we're both debating for truth, and he wants to go about it a certain way, and I want to go a certain way. My business coach, Gene, has a phenomenal way of being able to bring an example that makes complete and utter sense to everyone, and they're like, oh yeah, no, let's do that. I struggle terribly at being able to give the right example, but Bilvavi does such a beautiful job always giving real life examples that makes the light bulb go off, the R go off in her head. Example, there's a pipe with a hole somewhere inside the house and the water is still dripping all over the place. It's not going to help to just mop up the water. Before we do anything else, we need to fix the hole in the pipe. When we ask Hashem for forgiveness, we have to understand the root of sin in our nefesh. If we do not understand the source of the sin, then we cannot fix it. Let's try to understand the empty void in the neshama. Chazal say the nefesh will not be full. This can be compared to a farm boy that marries a princess. Anything that he brings her will not be enough to satisfy her since she is the daughter of the king. There is no human being in the world who does not feel the void in the nefesh. The question is how much of the void he feels and what he does when he feels empty. Bittul Torah in general, at least for myself, is because the same thing else going to the gym for myself versus being able to open TikTok and just scroll like a degenerate. It's harder to fill that void that will only feel fuller if I use the right tools that Hashem gave me in order to fill them. But the quick dopamine fix can really be achieved almost quicker with elements that are outside of the Daled Amos that Hashem created for our benefit, the mitzvahs that He created for our benefit. the ability to make a bracha with intention before eating for our benefit so we can actually elevate the food, so that we can elevate all of our experiences. But it takes mindfulness, it takes work, and we go to the place of either I'll do it later, or I deserve this, or I need this. When Torah, mitzvahs, giving of ourselves, volunteerism, askanus, tzedakah, spending time with our kids, spending time with our wives, doing something for somebody else, which we all know is better than doing things for ourselves as far as how we feel. Maybe not in the time, but after the time. All I'm trying to point out is that this emptiness feeling, even without the averos that may have once existed, or averos that we may have once run to, or averos that we are running to, it's that emptiness that ultimately I think many of us can feel at times, that we have to find a way to fill, and yet we continue to fill it with things that, again, may not be damaging in the traditional sense of what we would consider damaging, but still are ways of not being able to give us the elokus that we need so badly, especially the ones that are in this room, Nisan, I see here too, that are on the shir, that are definitely looking for a life of chassidus and devekus and panemius. The person comes home at night feeling the void in his neshama, and he starts to eat. Classic. It relaxes him a little bit. He's not eating because he's hungry or because he has a desire for tasty food. He's eating because he feels empty and he's trying to fill the void with desire. Guilty as charged. Why did Hashem give us the power to feel empty? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I will surprise you by saying that feeling empty is a very good thing. If a person never feels empty, what will motivate him to learn Torah and perform mitzvahs? There are people who feel they are complete and don't feel a void within themselves at all. And I've said that to you, Ellie, multiple times. That the biggest bracha and the biggest curse is that when our neshamas are desperate for panemius, and that the only way we seem to be able to find peace, when we look at the next guy who just knocked out Shnai Mikra, and he's happy as a lark, and we can't compare to that. And he's just fine with that. There's no judgment. It's just how Hashem created him. And we are like, no, it's not enough. I need more than that. I need more than that. I need more than that. I need Rabbi Nachman. I need Tanya. I need Bilvavi, Mishkan, Evneh. I need all the different Panemius Torah channels of the Baal Shem Tov, all those things. But it's the biggest bracha, because we've got this massive potential for opportunity within Devekus and Elokus that may not even be relevant for somebody else. But it comes at a cost of that lacking. And that's many times why you see the same guys that excel in super growth also had a super sketchy background. Each person can choose for himself how to fill this void. Someone wakes up in the morning and he feels empty, even if the world seems ostensibly to be full of things. In reality of creation is completely empty. Hashem created an enormous world, very big and full of creatures with no purpose. Everything is empty of meaning. But if this is the case, then why do people feel that the world has no meaning? The answer is because they have strong desires. They are drawn to the desires of this world and think there is actually something to it. Someone who is lacking strong desires can see that Hashem created a world that is completely empty of meaning. Shlomo HaMelech said, Hevel Havalim, vanity of vanities. The world is empty of meaning. There's almost no fulfillment in this world. When a person is busy making a living and interacting with his family, or even when he's learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, he feels fulfilled. The goal of his life is how to fill the empty void in the proper way when you feel the emptiness threatening to overtake you. The fulfillment can be found in the world, but it's often hidden in a very deep place. The emptiness we experience is actually a reminder that we are not fulfilled and we need to keep working to elevate ourselves. Most of what we do and accomplish is in a certain sense of imaginary. We wake up in the morning, we go to work, we go to school, and imagine that we are finding fulfillment there, but this is actually an illusion. If we took a moment and thought deeply about it and came to understanding that our work is basically meaningless, our lives would revert to feeling utterly devoid almost instantaneously.
That's meditation.
Yeah. Just read that one more time. It's powerful. If we took a moment and thought deeply about it and came to the understanding that our work is basically meaningless, our lives would revert to feeling utterly devoid almost instantaneously. If we don't live in a culture, in the frum world, that doesn't define itself by career, almost more so than the Gaisha world, we're fooling ourselves. We are on this incessant, insane train of recent, for all relative purposes, mass success in the frum world. And there's always a difference between the two guys. There's the learning guy who may be very successful but happens to work. And then there's the working guy who happens to learn. We've talked about that before. And we know who those guys are. You know, the guys that are typically the obsessed with the daf, in shul 3 times a day, around their kids and their family, and whatever, they either got lucky or they didn't get lucky. You know, and then the guys that are fully defined by conference culture, doing the next deal, which again, there's nothing wrong, but there's still a difference that we have to be able to admit to ourselves on the kind of guy. If we took a moment and thought deeply about it and came to the understanding that our work is basically meaningless, our lives would revert to feeling utterly devoid. But this would be a positive thing because it might lead to the beginning of the desire to elevate ourselves. Most people never reach the necessary level of emptiness that would motivate them to move forward in their lives. Rock bottom. It doesn't even have to be as graphic as, you know, addiction. Just can be a rock bottom of, this really can't be all of it. Because I got sober and I hit this bottom also. Of like, okay, I'm sober so everything should get better. And then it didn't. Things did, but not everything. It still reverted right back to the scrolling and the addictive candy eating and all the other elements. So like, what is it? All the Gedolei Yisrael were able to elevate themselves from the feeling, someone who feels an empty void within himself is standing at an intersection. All the Gedolei Yisrael were able to elevate themselves from this feeling of emptiness within creation. They were looking to fill the depths of their emptiness. It came from the feeling that the creation has no meaning, and in reality the world is empty. As a result, they searched for meaning. Even one who enjoys fulfilling his desires knows deep inside himself that this is not the purpose of life. He feels that he cannot find fulfillment in his life, and he completely disregards the concept of the world to come or the concept of his reward and punishment. The person who thinks that his desires can bring fulfillment to his life thinks so because his desires are so overpowering that he mistakenly believes that once he fulfills his desires, his life will be fulfilled as well. Young people often think that the action is outside. They go out, and all they see is the emptiness, the desolation, the lies, the cheating, and the utter selfishness. They see that there is almost no one who cares about anyone anymore, and they end up feeling very lonely in this world. So this part that's coming up is fire. Any thoughts, by the way? Anyone want to share anything? I don't need to be the only pontificator here.
I think the one thing they mentioned before is that most people don't get to that rock bottom, which is a dangerous place. If you're not hitting the rock bottom, you're never really realizing or tapping into or feeling that need to push for more. So you're doing enough to almost numb yourself. The guy that isn't always drunk or doesn't feel like he's addicted.
Totally. I mean, you're talking about a lot of guys that feel this, like they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they mamish feel so empty. That's sad. You know, it's a sad thing of like, I'm not misbehaving. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm on this hamster wheel. I've been told that this type of structure is going to make me feel okay. But I'm missing something. And then
it's the golden handcuffs of Gashmias. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. What about the learning guy that...
It's interesting, just to get to the point, what was it, Shalom?
Yes.
I actually heard a bunch of years ago from Rabbi Abraham J. Tversky. He said, like, in order to go through, to have change, you have to come with one of two things, which is the same shorish. Humility or humiliation. Mm-hmm. So you have to have one of those two, which both of them is hitting a rock bottom. One of them is, you know, with humility, you're realizing what the deal is. Humiliation is, it's been presented to you. So, like, there's ways to get there, like Avisha was saying. Like, I think there's There's a famous like saying in recovery. They say like, when do you hit rock bottom? When you put the shovel down. Because there's always more to go. There's no such thing as rock bottom. There's no Sharnun, we're always we're meant past 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. But this is actually, what's interesting to this is I really appreciate it. If I would just take this, what you said, and look at it as like a maforish to like a lot of the beginning of the Tanya. It's like it has a lot of that, where it's talking about, it's a different understanding of, he's looking at it as filling up the right ventricle. But he's explaining it from the side that it's empty. So actually, I really appreciate that. If I'm looking at it from that lens, So far so good. I don't think I've ever looked into Bilvavi, these books, but thank you, appreciate it.
No, they're all.
I have to jump off in a second.
Go ahead, Jay. But
really
they're also, these are all translated in English. You're not allowed to buy the English, but they're all the Sfarm are in Hebrew, so you can go ahead and do that. And then you can take over. See you later. Thanks for coming. Okay, guys. So this part right here is just such fire. I didn't remember. I mean, I read this book before, but I don't. This is the part that I remember. And I mean, this is a treat what I'm about to share. So buckle up. This title of this section is called "Busyness." Busyness keeps us busy. Most people never arrive at this point of disillusionment for a simple reason. They are too busy! Exclamation point. Like it says regarding the status of Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim, Tichbad es ha'avoda al hanoshim v'yasu ba. Let the work weigh heavier upon the men and let them engage in it. When we were children, we spend our time playing, and when we mature, we have a routine of work and study. There's no time slotted for contemplating life for better or for worse. But if a person puts it all on hold and starts thinking about his life, then he can see what is really happening. I think one of the messages in Talmud Torah, in Limud Torah, in the importance of Limud Torah, is really two messages that I've learned over the last bunch of years. Message number one, are you bringing Hashem into the mix when you're learning Torah, or are you just learning Torah as an intellectual exercise? That's number one. Are you teeing up Hashem before you sit down for a charusa? Are you having him in mind? Are you inviting him into the charusa shaft? That's number one. Number two, there's not a lot of guidance on how to do neshama evaluation, aka hisbaininus. I'm not even talking about such a chassidish topic like hisbaininus. I'm talking about contemplation. When have we been told by anyone in the regular Welt, growing up as kids, that it would be appropriate outside of tefillah, outside of Talmud Torah, that you take 10-15 minutes a day and really figure out where you're holding. How are you feeling? Are you enjoying this? Where are you in pain? Where are you happy? What can you maximize? What can you do more for yourself? What can you do more for your loved ones? They didn't teach us. There was no neshama guidance. But this is what he's about to talk about. Once he has reached this point of contemplation, a person will be faced with two options. Number one, if he feels the emptiness of creation, he has the option to decide to fulfill his emptiness. The same depth of his emptiness will be the same measure of his fulfillment. The other option is for the person to say, this is the creation, and there's nothing here, like Acher, Chas v'Shalom said. If I do not have the world to come, I will enjoy this one. But in the end, Acher had no enjoyment of this world at all. When Hashem created the world, he created this emptiness along with it, as we say in the brachas. The creation is incomplete. The beginning of one's own individual elevation is when he realizes that everything is empty. Anyone who has experienced the feeling that everything is meaningless has the kli to grow. Dov Ber Cohen, in my car when he was here. Avishai, the first chapter of Mesilas Yesharim I read 1,000 times. And the only thing that matters, everything else is an illusion of importance. It's not that it's all an illusion, though there's the argument to make for that, but the illusion of importance. We are literally the puppets in the Matrix. is that work is important, that money is important, that status is important, that vacations are important. Now, yes, we have to do what we need for our goof. I'm not being extreme here. I'm just saying we all look at the important. But guess what? Y'all going on vacation when you're 6 feet under? Are we taking the money, the house, the cars, the jewelry, the status when we're 6 feet under? The Gvirim I know are just gone. They're not, I mean, some of them are remembered. They have legacies. But it ain't because they had Alexis first. It's because of the tzedakah or the achrayas they took, or, Mendy Klein, as an example, Ellie knows well. I mean, that guy's not forgotten, but it's got nothing to do with his rags to riches story anymore. It's got to do with all the things he built up in Cleveland and beyond. I mean, that's just how it is. Jack Reifenbach, Maury, all these guys. He was phenomenal at filling nursing homes. Or he was a nursing home owner. I mean, the pinnacle of everything in the frum world right now is nursing home ownership. We don't even talk about the guys who have had $100 million exits, because if they don't own nursing homes, then it just doesn't matter. But I'm joking. But you get the idea. The beginning of one's own individual elevation is where he realizes everything is empty. Anyone who's experienced the feeling that everything is meaningless has the key to grow. He must use this tool. Someone who does not feel the emptiness of creation does not have any force that is pushing him from the inside. A person earns this feeling of emptiness with the emphasis on earning. Emptiness is in its intrinsic nature draws a person to remain within it. It's the inclination of a person in the state of emptiness to say, this is life. There's no meaning to life. Even if he understands with the intellect that there's a purpose in life, in his heart he feels that the world is empty. The next time we'll talk about going through the motions, but I want to just leave you guys with this one thing. The only way I know how to chip away at some of this, I'm leaving my license as a bookmark. The only way that I know how to chip away at some of this emptiness is by picking up the things that I enjoy learning and learning them. There's other things that are very important to learn. I'm not trying to be controversial about don't learn what you don't like to learn. You have to learn everything that the Torah lays out for us to learn. I'm saying this one point on purpose. We all enjoy certain things and certainly limudim. So, this is not a flex, but I've got my day by day with Rabbi Nachman. I've got Tzidkas Tzaddik from Rab Tzadok HaKohen, Panemius on Maseches Brachos. I've got Likutei Moharan, Breslov. I've got my Tanya. I've got a Mishnayos. Because these are the things that are keeping me going. I can open them up and force myself in the moment of, I'd rather just scroll, or I'd rather just go watch TV. 2, I have a set day of learning, I have a set time of learning, I do my learning, I push through that uncomfortability of, I just want to shut my brain off. And I still shut my brain off. But it isn't going to happen for me around a learning style initially that I can't connect with deeply. And so I think that when I speak to the guys in my network on this call and beyond about this constant empty feeling, or this constant how are we not more joyful? Because we're supposed to be really born with that midah of being in love and being okay and being happy. I've seen a big shift in myself and in my consciousness on just being able to pick up the things that this really speaks to me. Tanya being an example of finally having a limud that not only taught me the esoteric concepts of Panemius and Kabbalah, but then is teaching me how to use them in my day-to-day life in a way that I haven't seen in other sefers. Bilvavi has its own place in my heart, everyone knows, but Tanya has done ridiculous work for me. But I can read it. I can learn it, So anyways, if it's helpful. Otherwise, this is great that we got this started again. We're going to go through this. This is not that long. I may actually not read page to page. We'll see how we want to do this. But whether or not you guys have time to come on each week, I'm going to do this regardless. We're going to put it up and get back on track with this, and appreciate you guys coming back. All right?
Shkoyach.
All right. Love you all. Bye.
Perfect. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.